For more on this story, let's turn now to Colin P. Clarke. He is Director of Research at the Soufan Group, a global intelligence and security consultancy firm. Colin, thanks so much for making time for us.
Thanks for having me.
Colin, when it comes to New Orleans and everything that we've learned so far, and it's only been a day and a half, really, what are the key standouts for you in this attack?
Yeah, there's a couple that strike me. One, the attacker's age. He's in his early 40s, which is typically older than the average ISIS recruit that becomes radicalized. Second, I would say the complexity or sophistication of the attack. There was a lot of layers of redundancy built in here. He used a vehicle to mow people down. He also had a firearm. He was wearing body armor. He had improvised explosive devices, although they didn't go off. So multiple layers of redundancy built into the attack plan. And then I think, the lethality. I believe this is the most lethal ISIS-inspired attack since Pulse nightclub in Orlando in 2016. So a high body count. ISIS is going to get a lot of propaganda value out of this specific attack.
What do you mean by that? What kind of propaganda value?
So they're going to promote this. We're already seeing in Telegram and Rocket Chat channels online where the supporters like to congregate. A lot of cheerleading, a lot of celebration, praising the attacker, calling for others to follow suit. And so we'll see this kind of trotted out by both official Islamic State propaganda, but also this broader ecosystem of supporters, of what we derisively call fanboys, that kind of promote the group online and threaten the West.
I'm going to ask you now, Colin, based on your expertise, but also based on your gut instinct. I mean, is this a person that seems like they were just having difficulties and they wanted to do something and they wanted to be affiliated with anybody, so they picked ISIS? Or is this someone that seemingly has been radicalized in some sort of way, specifically in ISIS's ideology?
Yeah, well, a lot of the variables may be true. This may be somebody that was struggling, that was going through personal difficulty, that led to some kind of a cognitive opening to embrace this type of ideology. There's been reporting that his ex-wife said that he converted to Islam some time ago and began radicalizing pretty quickly. That wouldn't be completely uncommon with some previous typologies or attack patterns that we've seen. We're still very early in this. We've got to have the intelligence community go through the digital forensics, see what was on his devices, who he may have been communicating with, if anybody, and what types of ISIS material he was imbibing.
Tell us more about that. For the FBI, for the intelligence officials involved in all of this, what are they going to be looking for, specifically in this issue of a motive and whether it was Islamist related or not?
Well, I think this individual actually made a recording, although I haven't viewed it yet, talking about his support for ISIS. So we don't need to overthink this. No need for mental gymnastics. I'm a big Occam's razor guy. The simplest explanation is probably the right one. And if this individual is telling us that he supports ISIS, he carried out this attack and had an ISIS flag, that's likely what happened here. The details will be interesting to figure out. When did this process start? How frequently was he viewing this material? Was he in touch with others? What does his broader network look like? A lot of questions that we'll hope to answer in the coming days and weeks.
Colin, I really appreciate your directness in that, because it does seem like there's quite a bit of concern of jumping to conclusions, even though seemingly the evidence is indicating the guy's telling us why he did it and what he was doing it for. But what we have less information on is the situation in Las Vegas. Another explosion or attack of some sort. Now, fortunately, we did not see the kind of fatalities like we did in New Orleans. But what are you making of what we're seeing coming out of Las Vegas?
That one's a bit harder. The news now that this was an active special forces member, which is extremely rare. I don't know if we've ever had something like that. I'll have to go back and look, but I don't know, and I don't necessarily want to speculate what the motive could be there. Did this individual leave behind writings, his own video? Was this connected at all to New Orleans, given the fact that both the attacks involved military veterans, both were used rented cars using the same app, both may have been stationed at the same place at the same time? It's going to take a lot of digging. It may be completely unconnected and coincidental. The Vegas attack is something that a lot of folks are still trying to unravel.
And finally, on the issue of ISIS, Colin, I was doing a bit of research before our conversation, and it seemed to me that their numbers in terms of international attacks really dipped between 2020 and 2024. And in last year, and including New Year's Day, we've seen a spike again. Not the numbers we were seeing in 2014 and up to 2016, but it's happening again, and it's causing a lot of concern for people. What's your read? Are we going to see more ISIS and ISIS-inspired attacks in the year ahead?
Well, and if you look at what's happening in Syria, ISIS attacks actually tripled from one year to the next. So I know you're talking about a global picture. I want to zero in on what's happening in Syria because with the fall of the Assad regime, ISIS in Syria is going to look to seize that momentum. There was a massive attack by ISIS in Somalia just prior to the attack in New Orleans. So they're going to use this to kind of pump out in their propaganda, inspire others, and really make it seem like they are on the uptick. We could be in for a very sporty start to 2025.
Colin P. Clarke, always good to get your analysis. Thanks so much for making time for us today.
Thank you.